Riding on this know-how, never been here before, peculiarly interested, possibly that's all. Is history recorded? Does someone have a tape? Surely I'm the pioneer, constellations stay the same. Just a little bit of danger, when intriguingly, our little secret. Trust, say trust me, 'cause no one will ever know that this was happening. So tell me why you listen.
Well, hello everybody. This is my Staaker drone. It's one of those autonomous drones. It's pretty awesome. But unfortunately, I flew it into the top of a 30-something foot tree, probably even higher than that, and I'm gonna open it up and start inventorying what I need to repair it. So the Staaker drone comes with a manual that describes some of this stuff, but I figured I'd just make a video of it to make it easier for you all. So the gimbal's all toast, warped, destroyed, but it still spins freely and it didn't damage the rest of the housing. Arms, motors got knocked off, some of the arm pivots got cracked, so that's got to get opened up too. So this is how these things go. They open up, and then you're supposed to be able to lock them in place, but I don't want to do that too much without destroying some more of the integrity of the drone. This arm lid right here got knocked out of kilter, so I've got to do something there. To do this, I've got some basic tools: Allen wrenches, a metric set, and a little set of Torx and what, flathead screws, Phillips heads, and whatever. It's kind of general small electronics toolkits that you can get. And then a little plastic pry tool if I need it. So I'm just going to kind of get started. I see here that this thing already is bent, so I might have to go downstairs and get a heavier pair of pliers to straighten out this one bolt that I might have to straighten it before I can even remove it. But what we have, 4mm Allen wrench for the legs, and there's a small 2.5mm Allen wrench set screw for each one of these leg bolts. So you have to unscrew the set screw before you can sort of release the set screw for the legs. So that was the 2.5mm. This is now the 4. And you sort of remove these legs from their position in there. You know, it's got a long screw. It sort of sits in this pivot thing, and the pivot has a set screw in it. So I'm going to do the easy stuff first, and we'll get to the difficult one next. The Staaker's been really good. It's been very rugged. The main clamshell body has withstood all of the crashes that I've subjected it to. This is now the third and most serious one, so I'll be ordering replacement parts from Staaker after I take this inventory of what parts I need. These are aluminum screws to save weight. They're easy to strip, so when you put them back in, you want to be really careful that they go in, you know, by hand. You ease them in carefully. So this is the bent one down here, and it's bent so that if I try to unscrew it, it warps over and wants to crack the leg, where the leg sits in this little kind of soffit or support. So I'm going to temporarily stop the video, go downstairs and grab a strong set of pliers from my garage and bring it back up here. I might be able to push it straight. I mean, either way, this bolt is toast. So let me just see if I can... Okay, maybe I did that. I just kind of forced it over to see if I could straighten it a little bit. There. You know, I'm hoping that I'm not going to... Okay, there it goes. See how it's all warped? So the aluminum, I think the aluminum is by design to save weight, but aluminum's also softer than steel, so it has the secondary advantage that the aluminum bends before the plastic part breaks. So there's that head that got bent. So you pull this out, slide this guy out. So now what I want to do is ask them if I can get a bolt. You can get replacement legs from them, but from Staaker, but I want to see if I can get a replacement bolt. Okay, so that saved me some time. Alright, so what's next? 4mm, 2.5mm. I'm going to come to the Torx box here and pull out a T9 Torx. T9 goes in here and goes in here. And what I want to do is, these little Torx screws are different lengths, and you want to pay attention to which lengths go back into which slot. So I usually take a little index card, and as I take the screws out, I poke them through the index card in the pattern that they come out of the body. So let me go grab that, and then I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back with my index card, and I'll start taking these apart. Oops, that's annoying. What I do is I just kind of stick them in the card like that. So at the end of the day, or at the end of this particular test, I've got this little index card with these screws on it, and I'll just stick them up here, out of the way. These are spare tools. I'll put those over here. These are the tools that I used. And actually, I know that I'm going to need a 1.5mm for the gimbal up here later on. Right? Right. So I'll put that here for now, and I'll just put these out of the way so that I won't bump into them and whatever. Alright, so T9 Torx, 1.5, 2.5, and a 4mm. Okay, so all of the screws are now loose, right? And I'll just, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to remove the battery. Unscrew the Torx, lift it at the bottom a few, and unplug the LED. So, now I'm just going to lift this up back here. Double checking that I got all the Torx screws out, because it feels a little... Right? Yeah. The 4 screws out here, and I've got the screws out of each of these places here. There's one more left in there. That's the one that I missed. Pull that. There we go. That one goes, what, right in the middle here. Dang, huh? Alright, so this comes up. Now the next thing is to there's an LED light here. So you're going to come under here and loosen that. That gets a little tricky because it sits. It's kind of a soft plug, and the first time I did this, I remember it was really not easy to pull out, and I wanted to be really careful with it. You know, you'd want to avoid pulling plugs out by the wires, right? Well, that one did come out by the wires that time, so. Then, under here, as this comes away, you can carefully take the gimbal power and gimbal signal wires out of that little slot right there. Take my glasses off. That unplugs there. And where did I unplug the gimbal signal wire? That unplugs up here at the gimbal. So there's this securing tape. I've already done this once before, so that adhesive is going to get a little worn out. And then that just unplugs up there. So that comes away, and the power plug comes away. So there it is. It's your plug for the LED, plug for the power to the gimbal, plug for the signal to the gimbal. Goes up in there. So this is one separate assembly. I'm just going to put that there. And then here is the damage. Let's see what I've got. So this one has already come loose. It would ordinarily fit in there. Here you can see how these are sort of locking plates with little nubs that lock in the arms in their position. So this one's definitely toast. So I'm just going to ease that out. Over here are these beautiful gold-plated power fasteners. One. Two. Three. And they also have a little slot where they fit down in very carefully. One at a time. White, yellow, and then black. As a matter of fact, this video, whether I even put it up on YouTube or not, will be super useful for me when I reassemble this. Because a lot of these things are pinch points. So, arm. So here I'm just going to lift this up. Disconnect that fastener. Red. Come under here. Black and white. That's going to be a little bit tricky to plug back in again because those plugs don't want to come up. This I haven't quite figured out. Like, there's a little bit there. I'd love to replace this piece because it cracked over here. I'll ask Staaker if they can sell me a replacement part for that. So here's the other one that got broken. I think this was the one that got broken in the first crash that I had. But it cracked pretty aggressively, but it still survived enough that I could re-glue it with cyanoacrylate, you know, crazy glue stuff. One, so black, white, and yellow down there. And then that comes out through here. Beautiful high torque end motors. Yeah, so here's that piece that I wanna. I'm probably gonna crazy glue that back again there because I can't quite figure out how to get this off, that plate to come off and maybe replace that. Alright, up here, this one has a broken sort of flange piece, but it still pivots and operates well. These are 75 bucks a piece, so I'm going to save myself that 75 bucks and just live with this one. It'll still lock in when that locking plate is activated by the legs. So that's where we are. This is the inventory I'm going to take. A couple of parts. And okay, so this is good. Toast. You know, it might work. Should I try that? Should I glue it again? Well, I've glued it once before. It survived a lot of flying. Now this piece goes right in here. Hey, why don't I do that? Why don't I do that? I'll save myself this one. Yeah, but this is all correct. I do notice that this is cracked back here, but as far as holding the prop in place, that's really just kind of a, almost like a garnish ring. Pop that out over there. You know, there's a crack right here and right there, but I think that's more cosmetic than useful. The propeller got a nice ding in it. I'll replace that. But yeah, I think I'll re-adhere this one with super glue. Alright, the gimbal. So I'm gonna just ease this over here. So here's the gimbal. This piece I've got to save as well. So here what we're going to use is a 1.5mm Allen wrench. And loosen these two screws here. So I'm going to put those carefully over there. I use the bubble wrap sometimes so that things don't roll. I don't know if you can see that surface here, but bubble wrap's kind of a convenient thing because it's neutral colored, and like I said, things won't roll on it. Alright. And then this comes away. So it has, the way this gimbal base sits in the housing, it has a very specific slot for its connector plug to sit, and that's where it connects right to the, what I guess is some kind of control board. But that we're going to save. The gimbal is what we have to replace, and that's that. This clamshell piece is still intact and solid. It's got a few little dings and scratches and, well, anyway, from the collision, but that'll go there. And this is now the replacement part that I need. So I'll email Staaker for a new gimbal. Whoops. I'll glue this arm, and I'll ask them for 2 new arms with motors attached. So here's the body of the Staaker with the bottom clamshell taken off. So this is a plastic piece that sits here, and the locking legs press down on these sort of tabs. They're slightly spring-loaded to lock the legs in place when they're in the open position. So the legs, like over here, the legs swing open and reveal that pocket where those spring-loaded flat plates press down and go in and lock the leg in place. On this one, I've got a crack. Cracked in the first crash that I had. So I'm going to ask Staaker if, if you will, to take this piece off. I tried prying gently right here, but it's really not wanting to come up. So I have a hunch that it's either glued or maybe just friction pushed in there, but I'm going to ask Staaker to advise me first before I ruin anything further. This was successfully glued with cyanoacrylate glue, and it broke again in this last crash, so I'll glue it again. And it did work in that glued situation, but if it's something that can be replaced, it would be nice to do that at some point. There you can see how it's cracked off. I haven't glued it back on there yet, but I will shortly. The ones up on the forward side up here, this part, it's part of the clamshell housing over here. So here you can see that, and those are actually, that's replaceable with a set of torque screws. So worst comes to worst, that piece can be replaced. You see how they sort of, it spring loads with the locking motion of the leg as you bend it out into its deployed position. There's a little cam that presses those teeth into that socket that I just showed you there on that pivot arm. So well done, but I'm going to see if I can get that particular flat locking plate right there replaced.